Okay, we're broadcasting. Oh, I didn't check the volume. Let's see. Where is that? Test, test. Yeah, that's working. It's working. And so I'm going to send this to some other folks.
No Calvin tonight.
Calvin's not here tonight.
Put one out last night when you weren't here. You were working. Or goofing off playing harmonica in downtown Austin.
Yeah, right. I was hitting the town last night. Kathy made me do it, actually.
I did.
I was trying to get out of it.
Where? I was like, just park the car. You're like, well, we had to pay. Just pay it. Just walk down there. Thank you for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pushing myself, so I guess I gotta push you too. I'm so sorry. But I had a little fun time with a Calvin.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Calvin's the name of a bug.
All stink bugs are named Calvin.
Just need that to be clear.
I guess like that sounded a little funny, huh? All
Right.
stink bugs are named Calvin.
He's not talking in code.
We haven't had as many Calvins this time around as we did before when I became endeared to them. What was that, 2 years ago maybe? When we were having quite a bit of them. We were getting like 5 to 10 of them out of the RV every day, if not more. They're so goofy. As long as you don't scare them. If you scare them, they smell pretty. They're not called stink bugs for no reason. What are you doing?
I just advertised it to Twitter.
I saw this post. I'm in this group called Flight Radars. Raiders. I almost said Flight Raiders. Flight Radar. And it was about Elon Musk. And he was flying from Austin, San Antonio, but then he like was looping back to Austin.
Okay.
It was actually a test flight, apparently, of one of his new plane that he's working on or something. But he's in the area.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so.
We could assume that with that. Oh, before I want to drive by the Tesla plant and get it on video.
So Vivian Adler says that her cat likes to play with stink bugs.
Oh no, does she has to
Hi,
make them
old
go
school Vivian. How
off.
you doing there? Is what?
Vivian's cat has to be making the stink bugs go off then.
Oh.
So that's not I would imagine that.
She's crying about it, but she's laughing at the same time.
Yeah.
Laughing, crying relationship.
Yeah, because I can imagine the stink bugs get upset and then they squirt your cat and then your cat smells like that for.
Hello, Quicksilver.
Blech. No, I've rushed them out too fast and they get scared and squirt. I think that's happened. Has it happened 2 times now? And all the hundreds of stink bugs I've moved out of the RV?
Why is this? Did I do something wrong? Because can you see if I'm still streaming? Because I don't know why my screen shows that I've got to hit the play button on my YouTube channel
You are still streaming.
broadcast.
So just X out of that and go
But
back to it. Just X out of it and start
okay.
over again.
Then am I gonna lose my
Right, because you didn't have it up before, right? Oh, you were worried about your chat.
Yeah,
Good
no.
evening, old school Dave. He's been sprayed in the face many times, yeah. And you think he'd learn. I don't want to smell it. They're so much fun to play with, though.
I guess I gotta do this over again. I don't know what I did to deserve that.
Hello, Finch. Finch says it's still streaming. You don't know what you did to
I didn't.
deserve that? What?
No, I didn't.
We've been talking about
But I'm going this
karma,
way.
ancestral, karmic debt, or ancestral trauma. I've been listening to some different stuff, but that's not. What did T and Do say about that?
Karmic debt.
Well, ancestral, genetic, I guess.
Yeah, we all had that. That's kind of our karma. Our ancestors, how they thought, what happened to them. We have to deal with the negativity and the positivity from that. And so it's not becomes part of the
Oh.
lesson ground for the next grade in school. I think that's kind of the way they were, preparing the vehicle for um, changing, adapting, and developing. I mean, the mind that comes from it, right? Or the soul that can grow from it, from dealing with the vehicle and all its challenges. Let me see if I can get this.
Live chat.
A lot going on in the chat room right away. That's good to see.
Everybody saying hi.
So,
7 o'clock.
so Vivian Adler said he has been sprayed in the face many times. um, Kitty cat. Quicksilver said, looking good on YouTube. Okay, good. Thanks for that. Um, and the sound quality is hopefully is as good as usual. It's still streaming. Thanks, Finch. Hello, everyone. Good to see you guys. Yeah, there's something I do when I go to my channel where I click it when I'm sharing. Maybe I click it by accident, and it acts like it's pausing, and I'm
I don't.
not actually pausing the stream, but
Yeah.
I'm pausing where I was in the
I
stream.
don't
I
know.
guess.
It happens to me sometimes too when I'm like, when
Yeah.
I leave and then I come back and it's like I have to advance. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. So this morning, Kathy worked early. And then when she came home,
And
we
it
took
was
a
a
walk.
bust.
It was a
Anyway.
bust. Yeah, it was terrible. And what worked for yesterday for me was terrible. It's hardly worth it to even go out when it's like that.
But we had remembered, and we should remember, we forget every year, that this time is
Yes.
icky because
Between New Year's and Christmas and New
everybody
Year's
spent all their money on
and
Christmas. So.
Hanukkah and everything. Yeah, a lot of people are they're where they want to be, a lot of times.
Exactly.
And if they're traveling back and forth, it's almost like business. And I heard some horror stories about the airlines not getting somebody to where they were supposed to go, but going to Miami and then going to Fort Worth and then back to Austin, not even getting to where they wanted to go because all the canceled flights that were happening because the crews
Yeah.
weren't there to do the flight,
Hello, Mr.
is
Soy.
what they said.
Well, and what we've
Hey, Mr.
heard,
Soy,
what we've heard from a lot of our passengers that we've taken to the airport, Cincinnati specifically, because we took a lot of people out to the airport in Cincinnati.
yeah,
And people were saying that their flights were canceled because there just weren't enough crew.
right.
So they have to rest after so many hours. They can
Right.
only fly for so long, and then they have to rest, and then there's nobody to take up the slack
Yeah.
because of, I guess, the pay, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. It's
Who
just
knows,
like
that industry has
it's a
been.
system that's crumbling from within, kind of thing. Right. I mean, because everybody knows there's going to be a lot of people flying, so why wouldn't you have more crew? But it's too expensive to have more crew. For the airline, so they'd rather do with less and then try to transport people around.
Well, and what's crazy, like we were talking about before, like with Uber, they're making so much money and always trying to take as much as they can
Right, from the people and the workers.
and that's how it's always been.
Yeah,
Like there's
that's the
like
name, the capitalistic
right
system.
now the administration is saying we're going to garnish wages for people who aren't paying on their student loans.
Right,
So can't you just leave us alone?
right, right.
Like, do you really need that money, Mr.
Yeah,
Billionaire?
to go to school to learn things that you
Mr.
really don't need to learn
As far
a
as
lot
the
of times.
man, the government, the whole system of the government, do they really need my money?
No, of course not.
You know,
But,
they are literally making money for themselves.
right,
We're supposedly trillions of
and,
dollars in
and for
debt as a country.
their
And
projects that they want to put their
right,
money
and
to.
then yet we're giving billions
Yeah,
of dollars to Ukraine for
yeah,
war,
it's a
peace
huge
for war.
farce.
And
Everybody knows it, but
we're
we
starting
we
war
can't
with
do anything about it.
Syria, and Iran just declared war
Yeah.
on all U.S.
Yeah,
Israel, and
isn't that crazy?
like we're all money
But it's actually real. It's
for
crazy, but it's real, I think. I think it's really happening.
insanity.
Uh, I mean, people will say that everything's made up nowadays. There's not anything that you can't find somebody to talk about as not have happened in the
What's that
past and
question
so
there,
forth.
Mr. Soy asked?
Why does it say Jesus instead of Jesus? Oh, in quotes. That's a good question. You're the first person I think that's asked me that question.
I don't understand the question.
Because on my book title, I think is what he's referring to on my
Hmm.
screen. Let me go look at my screen here quick.
Oh yeah.
It says Tiando, the Father, and Jesus, in quotes, Heaven's Gate UFO 2 witnesses. That's because Jesus didn't come back. Jesus is the name of the vehicle that performed the task that Doe was the soul occupying that vehicle at that time. That's who Jesus is. And so the context of Jesus in this book is a quoted concept that's it doesn't
Well, how come you
apply.
don't put the father in quotes?
Well,
Because
because the Father wasn't given as a name. Jesus referred to his name
I
as
see.
Jesus.
I see.
Uh, yeah, but I didn't think about it that way. Because the other
But if
thing
you had
about
said
that,
God in Jesus, would you have put it in quotes? God, because T is God.
but that's still not a name. That word God was taken by the translators and interpreters
Oh.
from the different names that there were for members of the next level, the kingdom of God, that did tasks on the earth. And so you had Elohim, which was a general name, but it could also be a singular name, according to the Hebrew language, or yeah, as far as I can tell from my study, and it could apply plurally as well. And then Jehovah was the name that was given to Moses to use, um, which actually means I am. And I am is also means I exist. If you look it up in the Hebrew, you'll see that am and exist is the same thing. And that's because they're actually saying that they exist all the time relative to us. They're always in existence. and we're not. We're the ones that go away. We're the ones that die. Even if our spirit is still in some degree of living to where it can continue to grow and become all that it can become to become
Well, it
one of
seems
them.
like Tiendo said, if you don't advance, they didn't say that. They, as far as I'm using the word advance myself. That's my word. But um, if you don't advance past this level, this human level,
Right.
um,
You get recycled.
eventually, if there's no worth left in you, then you will be recycled, right? So
Right.
you won't keep continuing to get chances to keep getting it right.
Right. But you get plenty of chances. So nobody's like missing out on getting it right is relative to the purpose for the planet, according to Tiendo's teachings, and also the Judeo-Christian Islamic. Uh, I don't know much about the Hindu and Buddhist, although I know that Doe felt like Buddha was certainly a next level task. But they said all the religions came originally from the next level, so they all have their equivalents. You know, like you see Krishna with Krishna actually sounds like Christ, doesn't it? You know, but
Well, a lot of the stories are
yeah.
the
But anyway, back to
some.
the subject because there's something to be said about what you just said, Kathy, and that is that I believe the reason for that there's requirements and things, and that there's recycling for those that don't measure up to those qualities. You know, and
And
it's
we hang
described
around
in
a spirit.
hmm,
Sorry, we hang around a spirit and it influences. That's what
yes,
I was getting at. Like that's what
we
if like
become influences,
if you don't like
influencing other people.
exactly.
But that can be a
But
good influence.
you're not like remembered as like Kathy, like, oh, hey, there's Kathy talking to me. You're yelling in somebody's ear, drink, 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 because that's what I liked to do when I was alive.
Right,
That's what the other dead person was doing to me.
right.
All the dead people were doing to me while I was in the throes of drinking.
That's the idea. I don't know if it takes a whole bunch of them. You know, we basically, I think, we form relationships with certain discarnates, and this is T and O, I believe, we're teaching this. That with different discarnates, we form relationships with from youth, from early on. I mean, probably different ones as you have new experiences in society, you know, and latch onto you. Like, let's say your friend's influence was the one that uh, was most influential over your uh, getting into alcohol when you did. You know, I mean, you could probably say, or maybe it was just a combination of things, but potentially
I
you're
would say
picking
it
up
was the
influences.
situation I put myself in
Right.
and what I felt I needed to do to numb myself for the situations I was putting myself in,
Yeah.
to be able to
Right.
handle and cope with
Hmm.
what I was seeing and experiencing.
Yeah. And then, but whether that influence stays with you all the time, I don't think they do. If that's what they want primarily, I think they would come to you if
I
they
think
saw that you were
alcohol
going in that
itself
direction
is its
again.
own spirit, though.
Well, you can look
And
at
I
it that
do
way.
feel like the next level shared that information with me when I asked
Yeah.
for
Right.
help to be
Right.
free of it.
Right.
Because, and I was shown the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was horrifying.
Right.
And I didn't want to be a part of that.
The
But
idea of it,
sometimes you're helpless
that there was
and
like a person there
not
that
a
was actually,
person, it's a spirit.
well, a spirit from the context
There's
that we're talking about, it would be a
many,
discarnate.
as far as my understanding of it, and I could be really wrong, but the understanding that I got and what made me quit is that it's blackness. I was telling you about it, like I could see it, and it is surrounding the entire earth. It's just a huge black oily blob.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol, that's what alcohol is. And it threads through everybody. Not all of us, but most of us. It's through all of us. And we have to,
Well, some
some
people don't have a
people,
problem with it.
right, you don't have a problem with it. It's
Right.
not threaded through you.
Right. So
But
it's not
that's why
everybody.
it's so easy to automatically get back into it. You
Yeah.
can stop and think, like, I haven't thought about drinking for a while, but then something will happen and I'll go, well, I could go to the store and just get a bottle of vodka.
Right. Like
Or
you used
I
to
could
do.
go and ask those people. I could go sit at that campfire and they'll probably offer me a beer.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that goes through my head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want to drink, but so it's like that spirit is still, I don't, like we were talking about before, those entities that you can't quite describe what they are or where they come from. They're not people.
Well, it doesn't really
It's
matter
something
though
different.
where they came from.
And
It's not.
alcohol is one of those.
Yeah, I don't think it
Like
matters
that
that
thing at
much if that's exactly true. The way that T and were teaching that those were discarnates. It doesn't really matter. They said
discarnates are fallen angels that were cast out
no,
of
not
heaven.
necessarily. No, those that's
So
not the same thing.
I think alcohol is something that was cast out of
It might
heaven.
be. Well, I
It's
mean,
not just
alcohol.
dead people
I
that
don't
are
think
hanging
alcohol
around.
itself, the actual element, I don't think that's actually represented by a person, a real being.
I think it is.
Well, I mean, I mean, you could look at it that way, I guess. I'm not trying to say that you can't look
And
at
I
it that
think
way.
weed is too, and sugar and caffeine.
But it doesn't really matter if it is or not. It works to treat it as if it's an individual or a specific creature or something that's
Influence, like
influence.
you're saying.
Right, influence is kind of the word that T and Do used originally because it doesn't really make any difference if it's a thing that you don't want to do anymore because you've grown to want to not do it, not because you think you're supposed to not do it,
Right.
but because you want to not do it, then that's considered to be growth of the mind, of the soul, of the real person that's with each of these vehicles. And
What is
that's
growth?
what's important with that. I think growth is conquering the elements that would take us into a place of destruction.
Like alcohol.
Yeah, yeah. Not that it's a bad thing in itself necessarily. I mean,
Yeah, because it's done
people
a lot
help.
of
It
really
helps
good
people,
stuff.
and people use it to have be a little looser sometimes, and
Well, and I
they're not
mean even
necessarily addicted to
even
it.
its antiseptic properties.
Yes, it's got antiseptic properties, so it's not the substance that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the abuses of it.
And it does
Abuse
numb
becomes
pain.
yes, and it
Like you
numbs pain. They
like
used it a lot in the old days,
yeah, to
right?
pull out your teeth and stuff. It's like
Yeah,
here, drink this whiskey,
right,
get
right,
sopping drunk, and then come
right,
back.
right. And there's a lot of substances that also do that. And
You'll bleed like a stuck
reduce
pig, but
pain and look at marijuana the way it's been
right,
used
yeah.
medicinally at first. They allowed it to creep in there, and
Well, even now,
because it does have that effect of
yeah,
helping people with nausea and things.
absolutely.
So all the substances, this whole world was designed for us, and even with the ability to use it all, for positive, and we can also become a
Mr. Soy,
capitalist system to where,
which is not good, and
which is
it's
actually,
failing.
Doe boiled it down to the
That's why
best word I ever
everybody's so
heard for it to
crazy.
boil it down. What capitalism
Mhm.
is it becomes greed. That's what we were talking about before.
Right.
That the powers that be, they wanted to get everything from us that they can get from us,
Yeah.
and and they justify that, and so we become collateral damage for them if we're
Well,
suffering from it.
and that's exactly what this guy in the podcast was saying. Like, what does capitalism want from us? It wants our bodies. It wants
Our labor.
our labor. It wants our work.
The right hand of the person is
It
the
wants
labor.
everything that we can give it to keep supporting it. It's never going to be full. Capitalism is never full. It is an ongoing beast that always needs to be fed. The rich always want more. They're
Right.
never
They're
satisfied.
greedy. They're addicted to greed.
And so we're living underneath that system.
But
And we
they've got it
have
all
been.
justified. That's
So
not.
we all
It's not
think
greed.
we
It's
all think
in
that
order
we
to have
have
certain
to have that
projects.
too. We all think we have to have that too.
No, I don't.
I have to have a lot, you know, but
I
that
don't feel like I have to have
most
unlimited amounts of
people
things.
in the United States and most places think that I have to be rich so I don't, you know,
Yeah,
like
so
I
I
have
can.
less problems
Right. Because you can buy medical
or
attention
I need
and
to be the boss.
yeah, that's true.
Like
There's plenty of people
when
that
I
are
went for
their
that one
ego is
interview,
kind of the biggest thing that stands between them and recognizing that there's another ego that it created that had to do with creating this world. It's really not an ego
it's a distraction from what we
to
our
actually give
true
our efforts
purpose
to.
is.
Huh?
Right. Yeah. Right. Our purpose is not to climb. Like when I did that
The corporate
interview
ladders.
and the guy was like, "Well, where do you see yourself in 5 years with the company?" It's
Right.
like, "Well, I would like to still be doing the same thing." And they did not like that answer at all. It's like I'm supposed to say, "Oh, I see myself as the CEO." It's like, "No,
They want people that are ambitious.
I want to be a peon making 50 grand a year just putting in data. Like, what's wrong with that? Why I don't want to
Right.
climb a corporate ladder. Like,
Right.
50 grand a year is pretty freaking sweet.
Yeah, I mean you
As
can live
far
on that,
like
depending on what your kind of
our
debt you have.
expenses are less than that.
Yeah, for us.
If it boils down down
Yeah.
to it, we're not trying to.
Yeah. So I guess
But Mr. Soy would like to know where he can get the book.
I didn't finish talking about that. Yeah, but I'll go back to it.
You can email us at sawcat575@gmail.com and which is SAWCAT 575@gmail.com. If you put it in the thing, it won't do it.
Oh, it won't?
No, because it doesn't let you put links.
Oh, I won't do it that way then. I'll saw cat
But
at Gmail.
we can mail you a copy, and it does cost $50 though. Is that right? Because it
Yeah,
cost
and
eight.
that includes
It
shipping.
right. That basically
Because on my
covers eight
website,
something for shipping.
right, it's
Eight,
$40
eight
on
50.
the. Maybe it's now 50 on.
It's 50 on eBay, but
Yeah,
you only get like 30
but that's
something of
with
that.
shipping. No, I
And
got it
then
40 on eBay but that's not with shipping.
but your payout is still only 33 something dollars.
I know. I lose to eBay, and I'd rather have you do it not through eBay, uh, because we can get a few more dollars from it.
It's
Not that
also
it's that
and
important, but
then either way, we're shipping it out. If you get it directly through us, you have to pay us through Venmo
Venmo
or Zelle.
right.
Um,
And we won't
or
talk about that until the emails
right, that's
in
why it's
detail.
easiest just to email. But it's also available on Sawyer's blog.
Well, yeah, the text is available for free off my blog, so I'm not, trying to profit off of it. I want it to help me help us live,
There's a
so
Callie.
that we can, so I can continue to talk about this, and Kathy can
Yeah, so
also
if you don't
contribute
have
to that.
$50, it is a big, huge, thick book. If we're ever in the area of where you live, like you can buy a copy from us, and then I think it's only 35.
And we're in Texas right now. No, I was
Or is it
charging
still
40
40? That's right, it's
because there's no
40.
shipping. So
Because that, like, the cost is based on how much we had to pay for them. Even though
Yeah, we
We
have to
had,
make a few dollars on it. It's
yeah,
not, it's not, since I do give the text away, nobody's being deprived of
yeah.
any
So
of the
you
value
can.
of it that I feel like I saw in when I was writing the book. But, but I don't think there's anything, there's a,
I like having the book. I've marked mine up, but
see,
I stopped
yeah,
reading at around
I
page
mean, there's,
147, I think, because I got the real deal.
this is a good subject though, because there's an influence, I would call it an influence, that has you think that if you've got some aspect of the truth, or you've got something of that, when it comes to religion and spirituality, or there's this notion that you have to give it all away for nothing, and that the only way you can make money with it is if you become a nonprofit, right? And then you're justifying having an organization that you can put the money into so that you're not getting a personal profit from it. Now, that's actually a good thing, I believe, because the next level wants all their information to be available to everybody without cost. But as T and Do gave instructions, or Do gave instructions when they were leaving, that he was clear about, is that uh, the items of value that were in storage that included over 1,000 audio tapes, or close to 1,000 audio tapes, um, uh, that that those items in storage could be you could get some profits from them, not profits. You could get some funds from that in order to pay for the expenses of those that were distributing their information. So that's the way the next level really thinks about it. You're not supposed to be a pauper. I mean, there's no supposed to in that. Uh, but people think that unless you become an ascetic or something, that you're really not a devout follower of the religion that you follow. So you've got to become a monk or somebody that's giving. And even though you see priests all the time that are living pretty high on the hog, and off of what the parishioners are donating to them, uh, they made themselves into this position that's a career. That's how far astray it's gone. But then at the same time, that can be service to people, and that can be service to them too. They can learn a lot from that experience, and they can benefit from it. So it's not like it's evil or anything. But oh yeah, you're chasing a Calvin over there. Stink bug is on the run. Watch out for Kathy. She doesn't kill him. She helps him get outside. And he wanted to fly into my hair.
Dang it.
It's nice that they don't give you stink unless they're really disturbed. And Kathy knows how to pick them up to where they don't get disturbed. I'm gonna. He just came down here and hit my key. He's trying to type something on the keyboard. I think he went down there somewhere or up again, maybe. Anyway, I want to move on to something else I wanted to talk about, which is uh, the Jesus in quotes. I wanted to get back to that because not that that's important in itself. Well, it is. It does have another form of importance that I was actually. Oh, there he is, right there, crawling on my drum.
I mean, you can, sorry.
You don't want me to disturb the peace of the Calvin.
Stuck in there for
Um, Mr. Soy says, I think you two are interesting beings. That's a nice, polite way of saying things. Is there no ebook available? There are ebooks, yes, but you have to go through Author House. That's the publisher name. And look for my title that you see there on the screen as T and Do with uh, the book I put an ampersand in order to fit it, I think. I'm not sure why I did that, to be honest with you. But I think if you search on "and" in there, the Father and Jesus in quotes, Heaven's Gate, UFO, Two Witnesses is the name of the book. So if you go to authorhouse.com and search for that title, they'll show you the different ebook formats that they have. That is good to have too, because if you do get interested in the details of it, because it's a tremendous amount of research and information. I believe it took me 10 years to compile it, and I think it's got a lot of value. But you'll it's got no index. I couldn't afford an index, and I couldn't also um, I didn't have any pages left I could use for the book company, and I already had cut it back a lot, and so that's the way I always am. Seems like. Anyway, but so you can just search on things with the ebooks. That's what I like about it. Keywords. Well, of course, you can copy the text and do that as well. Off my blog. It's in about 12 files, and there's one file that's like an index when you search that name. So, but the word Jesus in quotes. Okay, in 1995, I wasn't in the classroom at the time when this happened. I left in 1994 in September, and they published on the World Wide Web at the time in user groups, certain user groups, documents, and they published a document that was called "Undercover Jesus: Surfaces Before Departure," and in that title, they didn't put Jesus in quotes. Okay, so then I don't know how long that document was up on the user groups, and they were getting responses from it and responding to some. And they changed it so that when you see it in the book, the Heaven's Gate book, you see the update because they changed it on the user groups, and then they put it in the book with the update. And that is they put quotes around Jesus, and they also changed some of the text of it. They talk about a couple subjects, not talk about a couple subjects that were in the original. And um, so, um, and and the thing that was surprising to me to see them with the title Undercover Jesus, because I knew from 1975 that they said they were not Jesus, but they were from the same family that Jesus came from, because Jesus was the name of the vehicle, like I said before, that uh, older member of the next level had the task to take over and bring the updates and talk about the graduation requirements of what it actually means to give your all and learning that process, because it's a process. Nobody knows how to give their all entirely unless they go through the process. Because I know, well, I shouldn't say nobody, because I'm only one person that knows that it's a process. Even though I knew it in theory before, I didn't know what that meant. And that's because I didn't know what my all was until T and Do started uh,
That
describing
doesn't
it.
mean just giving up your life.
Yeah, it doesn't mean just like, it does not mean killing yourself. It's not related to, uh, even though you're giving up your humanity by becoming a member of the next level's graduation classroom. And And that, you can see that talked about as separation from the world. It's not like you're giving it up because you've been told to give it up. You're giving it up because it doesn't work for you anymore in those departments. You know, and you see through it, like Kathy was talking about before. I believe what she was saying, that she saw through climbing the corporate ladder for money, that she didn't want to do those things. And I didn't also. I never, I never thought about what am I going to do with my life when I was a teenager, and that including making money. I didn't have a desire to make money. I had jobs. I had lots of jobs. I worked all the time.
I wanted to be a writer.
Kathy wanted to be a writer. I did, at one time, I told my mother when I was 13 I wanted to be a priest, but geez, that was the last thing I wanted to do a year later from that. I don't even know where my head was at. But see, I loved the idea of the spiritual idea of being somebody elevated in my own mind, and not necessarily thinking about it towards other people. I didn't really have that in my mind that I wanted to be a priest so that I could,
Be
but
close to God.
well, I didn't even think of it that way. It just felt like something that I was attracted to. And it was largely because I thought that giving your life was the highest form of giving, and even though I didn't remember reading that in the Jesus words, because I wasn't really a student of the Bible. But I was raised, so it's in my genes, right? That's what we were talking about before. We're dealt with all
Sawyer
this
and I
stuff.
were having quite the conversation.
Yes, we were. And we've had that conversation a number of times of how much programming there is. So we're programming, our experiences are programming our vehicles. That's experience with mind and body.
That walk we just took, we were programming ourselves.
Yeah, I guess so.
We were.
You were training our vehicles to be able to walk more
Well, yeah, and
and
even
have
just,
good circulation and
but even just our eyes looking at everything and feeling and seeing.
right, because you never know what kind of thoughts are going to come to you when you're taking a walk
The
and
interactions that we had, those
yeah,
nags that kept with
right,
us the whole time.
right, and I mean,
And they weren't that bothersome. They were, but they weren't that bothersome.
right, it's experience though, but it goes back to that tape that was 447 where Doe was very clear that you're not supposed to be in the classroom. You're not supposed to believe in everything that they were teaching. You're not supposed to,
Unless you do.
unless you do. Unless you do. And if you do, then yeah, there's a challenge to that. It's not going to be easy. But if you're willing to meet that challenge, uh, um, at some point in time, that will come to you if you stay in that direction. Then you'll keep on progressing.
That's true.
Now, I think that's the way I believe, and
Thank you for that, Vivian.
what did Vivian say?
Vivian
You can
says
still
she's so
be a
cool.
writer, Kathy. Never too late. Oh, she is. Uh, right now, she's being a video writer and
I'm just
an
taking
artist
pictures.
in the an artist writer in the sense of her coloring art work and
I'm working on some administrative kind of
photography.
writing right now, right, with photography.
Right, that's right. You are working with administrative
Which I used to
and
do that kind of stuff all the time, but I'm like stumped because I haven't done it for a while. And it's for something really important. So I procrastinated. And yeah, I need to get it done.
yeah, she's got lots. I mean, she's got journals. So she could write all kinds of things about her experiences and, actually be talking about. I should have had a journal while I was in the classroom. Then it wouldn't be so hard to write an autobiography. But
Yes, we are going to write your autobiography.
right, and we were going to do that together.
We're going to be into
We'll have opportunities to do it, I think.
opportunities to do things where we're like a little bit quieter place. So
Right, well, we don't have to work so hard every day trying to just make the bills. We have to reduce our bills too, probably, and that might just happen automatically when we can't pay them. It's like we don't have any money, so what are we going to do? So we're going to what? Hide with our
well, our
motorhome or
gas
whatever.
bill, our gas
You
bill will
know,
be reduced because we're
yeah.
not going to be driving Uber. Hopefully,
I mean, we might have to live in a car or something, which in a tent,
we were talking about a pop up, which we could pull behind. We need to get a hitch on the car though,
yeah, right, like
because we
or a
could,
pop up,
because
sell what we got,
we
and
could possibly trade this in and walk away with a pop up free and clear,
that would be nice if we could do something like that.
right?
The place to do that would be where we want it, I think.
They're out of business
Oh,
now,
they
probably
are. Yeah.
because of their shady things of giving people like us deals.
Oh, maybe. Well, thank you for that. If maybe they're on to a better business because they were so nice to people to try to give them better
They
deals because we certainly
gave
got a
people
great deal.
RV. I probably
But we're
could.
still paying for it, so it's not going to be a great deal if we have to pay for the whole thing.
I
But
mean,
I don't
it's
know
a
if I,
beautiful home for us, though. It's
yeah,
a very good motorhome.
yeah. So far, it's been
It's
really good
it's
to us, and
very good.
knock on wood, right? Anyway, so Mr. Soy says I believe in Kathy too.
Thank you.
You could still be a writer, Kathy. Never too late. Oh, I read that already, Vivian. Writing is a muscle. You got to train your vehicle to get back into it after a while. Yeah, I can hear that. That's interesting that you use that term muscle too,
I
because
picked my journal back up.
that's the way T talked about the mind.
Yeah.
It's the mind muscle. It's actually it's got a type of physical composition. It's like plasma organization. The mind, or the word that T and O used was mind, but they knew that it was synonymous with the word spirit, um, because because the mind that the frequency that's surrounding us and every cell of our bodies is all like part of the mind of that vehicle, and so when the vehicle's gone, it doesn't go away. It keeps on maintaining what it became up until it died. And so, like Kathy was saying before, it gravitates to those that were doing the same things that they were doing while the body was alive. Of course, some of them leave when those bodies can't be used anymore for those facilities. Like if somebody gets Alzheimer's or something, and they were a great, you know, inventor or something, and now they can't remember anything that they did, uh, then the influences that are around them, uh, they get bored with that. So they leave and they look for another host. And there's plenty of hosts. So, but they have that kind of a program. It's programmatical mind, programmed mind uh, that makes choices.
Programmatum. That what word did you just say?
Programmatical? I don't know if that's a word.
That is not a
No,
word.
I
That
don't think
can't
that's a
be a
word.
word. Programmatical. I think
Yeah.
I like it. Programmatical. That's like you're programming grammar
Well, it would be, right?
mathematically.
Grammar being a
Programmatical. I
communication
like
mechanism.
it.
Okay, well, that's cool. We can make that into a video. All the cells in my body are programmatical.
It programmatical. So
Programmatical. Oh, we're going to
yeah, we
keep
got
on
to
going
throw
with it.
like yes, because it's
So,
grammar
so the
and
song could
math.
keep on going in that direction as well. We could
Oh,
have fun with that.
mm.
We could have fun with a lot of crazy things, but not
Well,
too
we
much crazy.
have confirmed that we are
Yeah.
goofy.
Yes. And Kathy was a tree hugger today. I watched her hug a tree.
It was so
This
nice.
tree's base was so big she could,
I couldn't get
with
my
her
arms
arms
around it. Believe
extended, she
that.
got maybe around half of it.
Maybe. He was asking for a hug.
So, oh yeah, I didn't say hello to Corell. I'm sorry. Can relate to Kathy. I hear you
I
there.
said hello too.
And old
I
school
think I said
Dave,
hello.
praise Mary Jane's power. Mary Jane's power.
Yes.
Let's see, anything else I missed?
Oh, I guess I didn't say hi to Crow.
No, I didn't.
Gib
Or who
Gib
else?
Gibbo91 says excellent. That was a couple
Yeah,
minutes ago.
right. Hello there. Give 91.
We took like a mile long
Um,
walk along the
so
Colorado River today.
so I didn't finish with the Jesus story
Mm.
about the Jesus undercover Jesus services before departure. Because when they changed the document and put Jesus in quotes, I'm talking about T and Doe did that, and you can see it in the heavensgate.com website
Change
in the
what
book section.
document are you referring to?
The document is undercover Jesus services before departure. Okay, and you can see what Doe thought about all that directly, and so that's a so he took the quotes, he put the quotes on it after it had been posted for a while without quotes. And I was talking with somebody on my blog about how he never said he was Jesus. Okay. And because they said right from 1975 they were not Jesus, they were from the same family as Jesus, and Jesus was the name of the vehicle, not the mind. That they had another name for the mind, and when they were members of the next level in the next level vehicles. Anyway, so when I said that to the person, uh, he came back and said he showed me the posting that said undercover Jesus services before departure without the quotes on it, and it was saying that he was Jesus, so that he therefore could not be the return of that soul, because that soul said that not to believe anybody that comes in my name. And he used the word name, which actually in the Greek it has to do with the actual identity that that person used while they were living in a human vehicle. So not to believe anybody that comes with that name, and that there would be many false prophets and false teachers, okay, that were not from his kingdom. That's why you can't believe them. How many Jesuses have there been? If you look in Wikipedia, you can you can get some huge number. How many that actually became public about it in some way, shape, or form, including I don't know if Mr. Ike said that he felt like he was at one point, maybe not. I don't know if Rael, I think at one point said that he was. Uh, Sun Yun Moon, I believe, said that he was, and others, and some implied that they were, but there's a lot. And so then when I saw that he changed it in the book, and he changed some other things with that document, that original document, it was to me, uh, I think the next level was making a test of that. Because if somebody was so going to be so attached to that one scripture that means that they weren't going to recognize the hundreds of things that can easily be shown to be evidence of though being the return of the same soul. And of course, people aren't going to necessarily look at that. And because I'm saying it, and it seems so far fetched to many people, uh, with the way they left, even though Jesus talked about that's what he was doing. He was laying down his body, and he said, that was the greatest love that you could have for somebody else in the human kingdom. Talking about all humans, to care that much about somebody else, to be willing to lose your life because of them or what they're teaching or what they stand for, or to save them from death, even, like the way that some soldiers do and firefighters do and other people, emergency workers. A lot of times they're in dangerous circumstances with their lives. And so that's a form to me of putting into effect what Jesus taught. And anyway, but so uh, so if they weren't seeing all those characteristics that were being demonstrated by Tiendo, because the media wasn't really going to let you see that, because the lower forces of this planet, they don't want you to see that. And the only reason we do see it is because of the strength of the mind that uh, is willing to let you see it, and even allows that presence of trying to have you see it as even the opposite of that, so that you would see it as evil, manipulation, and all that. The next level allows us to actually be influenced by those thoughts. But if we continue to go in their direction in terms of our discovery of what they were all about, um, we'll still be potentially faced with that influence, like Kathy was talking about, that alcohol influence that can still knock on your door, but that you will grow able to know that you can handle it. And you might not even give a voice to that influence anymore. And you'll know how to stay away from uh, uh, that influence in your life. Like not go to the bar or not go to a party when you think that there might be alcohol there, where you could be influenced to drink again. Or this is not just alcohol. We're not picking on alcohol. I mean,
Why?
drugs, sex.
Because alcohol is terrible.
Right. There's all kinds of things that can be addictions, and there's all kinds of uh, things that are not addictive behavior that has a, um, a destructive,
People kill people when they're drunk.
yeah,
Drunk driving.
destructive tendency. Right.
So we are coming from alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's
Don't need to apologize to alcohol.
no, I'm not apologizing. I'm just saying I'm not singling out that is.
But we are though. Like, don't do it.
Well,
It's like smoking cigarettes. There's not really any benefit to it. There
well,
is some benefit.
some people get relaxed by it.
I know, but like it's like Umara was talking about. The risk outweighs the benefit. The high risk,
But
low.
you still got to come to that on your own terms,
Yeah, well, you can
rather
pretty
than have
much.
being forced on you. But then
It's
you,
true. Yes, right. It can't. It shouldn't be
but I
forced on
mean,
you.
then
If you.
it ends up getting forced on us in a sense when we start to find out that maybe there are some benefits that
Well,
I
like the
mean,
greater
some, I mean,
majority.
bad things about it.
Right, like cigarette smoking specifically is a
When
good
you start
example.
hacking like crazy,
Well, and it affects
it's like,
those
oh, wait
around
a
you.
minute, maybe I don't want to do that
It
anymore.
affects people around you
Yeah, that
and the
too.
environment around you.
Yeah.
Like cigarette smoke gets into
Emphysema, shortness of
materials
breath.
and it's carcinogenic and like
Yeah,
it turns stuff like toxic
right.
even more than it already is.
Turn your lungs black so that you can't breathe anymore. It's pretty bad stuff with the nicotine that whatever it is. But
Now, right, now if
doesn't
you
mean that the
just had
vehicle can't handle
tobacco,
it for their whole life
if you just
potentially.
had tobacco leaves,
Right.
like that's a
There's
little different. Like it's still not good for you. No smoke is good for us. But like cuz some people use tobacco
Well,
leaves
I'm
in
not going to
in
say that no
ritual
smoke is good
ceremonies.
for you because I know the Native Americans have all kinds of uh,
That's what I'm saying
substances
with
that they believe
tobacco.
are good relative to what they want and
And like
believe and
smoke is like
feel and
purifying, right? Like you do like purification rituals with smoke, like incense, and sage burning of,
different essences
you know,
of things, I guess.
of the
Wait,
smoke. Like we were
right,
talking,
right, right, right. Well, it does help get
I
away
was
from.
trying to get the gnats away from us.
Right, you could use it that way,
It
I
didn't
guess.
work though.
Let's all get our peace pipes going around the campfire, but the
And I
fire
was like, I
itself
can't hit
keeps them
my pen
away.
anymore because I like don't want to be that. I don't want to be that lit walking along the river here.
If you got a good campfire though, and you can feel the heat of it, those gnats aren't going to be around you.
Right, exactly. Fires are good for keeping
Yeah, and they're putting out smoke,
insects
right? Get
away.
rid of it.
Yeah.
Mr. Soy says there's even a thing called third-hand smoking because the smoke gets stuck on surfaces. Oh, right.
That's what I'm saying. Right. That's what I was talking about. It gets in like your couches and then your friend comes over and sits on it and that gets on their skin.
The air goes away from when they sit on it and pushes it up,
No.
right? So through
No.
that
No.
nicotine
No. No.
to
It's not,
re-put it into
babe,
circulated.
listen, it's not nicotine. It's the smoke that is coming off of the cigarettes. Like as the cigarette is burning and you're holding it,
Well, it's some
all,
kind of carbon
and it's all of the
combination of
chemicals that are made in the
right
tobacco
cocaine, and
mixture. No, there's not cocaine in
they used to put it
cigarette.
on the
Yeah, well, they
paper.
don't now. It's too expensive. It's a waste. Like they're not trying to give you free drugs. You got to pay for that crap.
But they did that because they
Anyway,
wanted to attract
anyway,
people to
the
it. The same with
smoke,
Coca-Cola.
hold on, the smoke from the cigarette as it's coming off a cigarette, it goes onto this couch cushion right here. And the smoke is in
Yeah,
there.
I know. I know
It's
that.
not nicotine or whatever. And then that smoke, like the
Well, how do
chemicals
you
in
know
it,
there's not nicotine in it?
there is, but I'm just saying it's like all of there's like 100 and something different chemicals literally in cigarettes.
Right,
There's only
right. I understand.
nicotine is one of
Right,
100 plus ingredients in
right.
cigarettes.
I've been putting too
So
much
all of
focus on
that stuff
nicotine.
it's just like if you were burning leaves, that smoke goes into the soft
But does the nicotine patch
materials.
actually work?
Yes, but I'm trying to explain what the third hand smoke is. It's
I
not
think I
nicotine and it's
understand it.
not actual smoke that rises when people sit on the couch. It's
I
chemicals
was,
that are generated with the smoke interacting with the material
I
and then
know,
it turns carcinogenic. And
I
then that
understand that.
then is like somehow absorbed by our skin through our pores maybe.
Well, of course, you can make a case for that. You can make a case for everything, though, in that regard.
I
I
guess it's
mean,
maybe like the same as meth. When people are cooking meth
I
that
don't
no, I'm
know.
just
To me,
saying
that's overdoing it.
it's not overdoing it though. It's like a scientific actual thing.
I
They've
know,
tested
but you
for it
have
and
the
it's in
science
the
of the
thing.
cellular network, and the cells can
No,
filter all that out.
but
Because
that's not it's like a meth house
it's
is
not
like
that.
uninhabitable because the carcinogens that are present.
Well, that's different than somebody's. I
No,
don't
it's not
know.
and it
It's
changes
not
the
different.
walls too and the paint. Cigarette smoke does.
Yeah.
If you've ever lived with a smoker when you take the
No,
pictures
I
off,
know it does.
it's all white behind
I
it.
know it does.
So that smoke is also changing all of the soft stuff.
We're gonna beat this horse to death.
So you guys get a little glimpse of our little
Yeah, to
moments that
anybody
we
that thinks
have.
Kathy's brainwashed by Sawyer or vice versa, is brainwashed themselves because to think that if they think they know that because you know
He has his work cut out for him with me.
we both have our work cut out for each other.
Yeah. Sorry you guys had to listen to
It's okay.
that.
Tar
It
and
wasn't
other
too bad.
toxins, right? Tar, right? See, he
Oh,
put
it's
in
tar.
tar, right? So we're this is how the elephants died, and the big elephants in the ancient days, the primitive ones, the what did
I
we call
swear.
them?
See, this is why I want to smack him, you guys. He's going to the Libre tar pits. That is not the tar that is in cigarettes.
That's not the cigarette tar.
With my
Oh my gosh, cigarette tar. Tar
gel
babies.
pins. I'm going to beat you with my gel pins.
What's tar babies, by the way? What's that? That
The
sounds terrible.
Libre tar pits.
I know, but what is the tar baby? Isn't there some kind of character like that?
That's not a very nice thing to say.
Yeah.
I think it's very racist.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I was just
And
playing
I
with the term.
think it's something that they did to black
Well, I
people
know they
in
tar and feathered people that didn't behave
right, but that
in the
word
town.
was used in relationship to black people's children, I believe.
Oh boy, that's terrible.
I just learned something horrible about
Do we
the
want to talk about that?
no.
I mean, if you want to, we can. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on the news and things that we learn about history that is so ugly, and I just don't want to revisit it over and over and over again. Um, I'm glad to find out about it.
There's a lot of ugly history in
I'm
there.
glad in the way that I don't want to hide from it, but I think we could spend
Will you
more
go? Will
energy
you
on it.
go look at that tree with me tomorrow, or should I
Sure,
go do it myself after work?
I'll do it if you want to.
Should we do it before you go into work? Because we're leaving on Tuesday here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're
Well,
gonna come
talk
back.
about that later,
Okay.
I guess. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yep. Of course. Of
But
course.
man,
Of
I'm
course.
open to whatever time you want to go.
Yeah, I know. We got.
You know that I like to try to.
I thought about doing it today before I
We do
got
all
home,
kinds of
but
things to with our spare time, with limited spare time we have.
yeah.
So Mr. Sawyer says, Sawyer, do you miss the members who left their vehicles, or are you happy for them? I am happy for them. I don't really miss them in the context of somebody that I've, had a close relationship with, like my daughter, for instance, uh, or if I'm not around Kathy for a period of time, I miss her. And I don't miss, I don't. It's not that kind of a missing because we didn't
No.
form
Did
human
you miss them
bonds.
after you left the group? Before
No,
they had left?
no.
Do you miss any of your prior coworkers that you had in the past?
Coworkers
Yes.
and jobs?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Friends that you had in the past?
Do
You
I
miss
miss them? Well, I miss things that uh, I mean, what? I don't know if I do.
miss my daughter. I miss my mom sometimes, but
Yeah.
so I mean,
I mean, I miss my daughter
it's not like really
sometimes.
a
And
favorite
she,
place
for the last 3 or 4 years, I hardly saw her. The last, maybe haven't seen her for 2 years now, right? And I miss her, and so I said I wished her a Merry Christmas. So I can understand. I'm not without emotion, and I'm not without connections. I have plenty of emotion, but um, but it doesn't translate as when I hear Alodi in the tapes. Uh, I have a fondness for Alodi because of even some of the whimsical things he said. He would say, I like that. It was fun to Alodi say certain things, and and you won't know what I'm talking about unless I. Well, he wore the Dr. Seuss hat. That was an example of his serious, but having a whimsical thing to it because it wasn't that serious to his mind because they had already, yeah, he had a lot of imagination. He did all those diagrams that became part of the meeting script. They were like 14 acrylic paintings that were made into prints by Doe and potentially sold to some people. And Rick Odie had a number of them.
They were. T was talking about that. They saw the lady didn't pay up.
Oh, that's right. That's what that was. That's right. We did. They did sell some. That's right. We have that on tape.
Way back when.
Right. So they were public in the astrologics where they were being sold in astrologics, and I don't know if they were being sold out of astrologics, but I think that's what they were talking about, the time period. And then they made them into prints, and they were. I remember when they were going to put them in to the Albuquerque. I'm just saying all this because that's the history. That's true, related to this. Yes, their intentions were very clear that those could be.
And other people don't think that were their intentions. That's why they're suing us, and that's that.
Right.
And like we were saying, when this is all said
Hey,
and
I'm
done,
about to have that snack that you're having.
whether they get a summary judgment on us and they quote unquote win, like we were saying, well, what did you win? You're still going to talk about your experiences in the group.
Right. I'll just talk about them differently. So,
You don't need to talk about them differently. You're not infringing on their copyright.
well, I mean, differently than actually playing the entire tapes. Maybe
You're not playing any tapes, and you haven't.
No, but I would play some clips if I had the choice to.
That doesn't seem like it's ever gonna happen. So.
Well, maybe not.
And great, so that's what they won.
Right, that's what they won.
That's what they won.
Right.
They won T and Doe not being heard. That's what they won. So congratulations.
Yeah, well.
And they also won however much money they've spent on this lawsuit. So.
Well, if they have certain things that they want to do with.
They're certainly not going to be able to collect any money from us because we don't have any.
Like I've had thoughts about that.
I literally have like $115 in my account.
Right. So
we don't have money.
They may have some ideas of making certain tapes available for a price, for a or who knows what, to where.
It offends me when you say that, and I don't even like them. I can't stand them. It offends me when you say that. They've not ever once tried to make money off the tape. Why would they try now?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they could be up to.
Never once tried to make money.
I know they haven't, as far as I know, but I don't.
So
they've got some kind of project going that they need
this
this lawsuit out of the way.
They're not trying to like make a bunch of money off of the material.
I don't know what they're trying to do.
Want to share it too.
I don't know what they're
trying to do. It needs to be done in this crazy legal way.
Right, but they talked about what they were going to do with Robert Balch and Ben Zeller.
For 28, 29
They
years.
talked about with what's his name. They had a project with Ben Zeller and Geller. And Mr. Zeller.
I'll believe it when I see it, because how much other stuff have they talked about that have been complete lies?
Well, I don't think they have a reason to lie about that.
How many other things have they lied about?
To get out of certain things, yes. But that doesn't mean that they were
Non-truths, we
lying
can say
when they
right
answered that
now.
question. That doesn't mean they were lying about having some kind of a project with Rob
Which
Balch
could
and Ben Zeller.
literally be another CBS special where everybody gets to talk shit about T and O again.
Whatever it
And
is,
make
they
it,
seem
oh,
to.
we're watching them.
Well, right, but
And the same thing's
what they said in that interview was that they needed to get this lawsuit out of the way because of what they were doing with Ben Zeller and Robert Balch.
I believe
Yeah,
we know
well,
what Ben Zeller and Rob Balch think about the group, so we know what that project's gonna look like.
right. I know that, but I'm not saying.
Work on a project with actual members of the group. They want to work on people who've been criticizing the group. So that lets everybody know where they're coming from.
Well, they put a spiritual slant on everything, so they may have a kind of some kind of spiritual.
Because they don't well,
I know,
when they just pray.
right? They did have us pray in the lawyer's office. Did we hold hands?
God
No, we didn't
no.
hold
But
hands.
they asked
But
us to
but Sarah started a
prayer.
prayer,
And the
and
person was like,
she read it, didn't she?
I don't know.
The affirmation that we're praying about.
I don't know. She said something like that sounded like her prayer that they maybe woke up every day and said something like T and O watch over us and
Oh yeah,
guide this meeting and our thoughts and that we have clear minds and I mean it all sounded great, but I was just like, what? I didn't
right.
know
Because the group never had that. We never had. Nobody did that. And
I didn't know we prayed to.
I mean, except the one time where Doe led us through a meditation, or two times maybe, he led us through a certain wording and feeling. But then it became up to us. 2 days out of, 2 tapes out of 1,000, being the whole time.
Well, and then they sat there and.
I mean, not that you couldn't do something differently than what they did. I'm not trying to say that there's something wrong with doing that. I'm trying to say that it shows going in a certain direction that's more of the religio spiritual ideas about
Well,
all
I don't know
this.
why you wouldn't work with somebody who your only mission in life is to get their message out. That's all you want to do is tell people about T and O. That's
Right.
all you want to do.
Right, that's true.
Why wouldn't they want to work with you?
Because they've built this other foundation in their minds that they are these certain kind of people that are in charge of this material, and they're doing it the right way by what Tiendo gave them, and what Tiendo, what they've said is they're doing things the way they're doing them because they think that Tiendo would do them in that way if Tiendo were here right now experiencing what's going on.
Sarah, where Mark and Sarah wouldn't talk to them anymore.
Right.
And they were like, we just want community. We just,
Right.
we're struggling. We don't know what to do with this information. And, we don't really like what they said to us. And, what do we do? Like, do you think T and Doe would just be like, just wait around, have strength, watch the 12 Beyond Human tapes over and over and over and over again, hold out for 2,000 more years?
That's not the only thing that they would tell you to do, but they certainly wanted the information to be available to people because all the forces against them want the opposite, to limit it the way that you can show that you're in favor of that is by limiting it because you're afraid that certain people aren't going to be able to handle it because there are some difficult things to handle.
How would you know if a representative right now?
How would I know?
Like, how many people have come to you and said, I'm a representative from the next level? I know it wasn't whatever, but
Right.
maybe it was.
A number, probably about 6 maybe, have told me that. And every time they did, they shared a little bit of their thinking, and I knew that it was not the way they thought. it was like clear as day. It's like somebody telling you that I can represent Donald Trump because I lived with him for 19 years. And then saying that, I don't know.
I know. I was trying.
That's not a good example. It's not a good example, but it's when you know somebody.
Opposite that Donald Trump was saying.
Yeah, right. There's something that's the exact opposite. That like there is no art of the deal. Like if they said that I'm back and I'm Donald Trump, and there is no art of the deal, that's stupid. And and yet that's one of his most popular books. Yeah, right, right. You would know that that person doesn't really represent Donald Trump if he died, knowing his mind, right, knowing his mind, because and yet we have examples.
Right.
We have dozens and dozens of examples of what T and O wanted to happen with the materials after they left. Yeah,
And a lot of times it's true. Finding reasons not to go public.
right.
And all of those reasons seem, well, I can't say all, centered around security.
A lot of times, yeah.
And discomfort as far as security.
Unless by their evaluation, by those examination, by the class members' help with that examination, they determined that this was the way to do it, go public, which they ended up doing with the Beyond Human tapes. I know it took a while because he went through a whole bunch of things up until
Right. So that's what
from that point.
are like operating from stuff.
Well, they weren't even there when we were doing anything with the public.
I know.
Again.
But I mean, it just seems like they're still in that mode of.
But then they were there in 1994.
Just
and
one meeting. That doesn't mean they
no,
were there.
they were communicating.
Back in the house. They were doing all the stuff.
They weren't at our
with
craft.
each other.
They weren't at our craft. They didn't live with us.
Yeah.
But they were used as like a stopover or a base or an address or a phone number or something
so
like that.
It wasn't a stopover.
Well, while we were
implies that lots of members were going there and staying.
I doubt it. But maybe a day here and a day there. Right.
Being used because they had a mail order business.
Right.
For the mail.
Right. They could serve some function. Right.
And they're smart.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they helped with some of the business stuff.
Maybe they did.
The taxes and stuff. Like, didn't Mark say they handled all the taxes?
Yeah, in the end.
So
yeah.
Like every year he said they were doing the taxes.
Every year they did it for a while?
1994 or something.
I didn't know that. It's hard to believe.
I know. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, because we had our own crew that was doing that.
Right, yeah.
See, that's where that doesn't make sense.
Maybe I misheard him.
They wouldn't put it all in his hands.
They were doing taxes for them, though. And that every year...
They may have filed them through their business address, or not business address, but their P.O. box that they took out. Maybe they filed them that way.
Like he was like doing
No. We had crew members that were professionals.
Make it sound like that's why they got all their
doing taxes.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was weird when he said that.
They weren't going to let that be in somebody else's hands.
I wish we had recorded that damn meeting.
So that was not true. That was an exaggeration, I think.
Well, just like it was an exaggeration that they were meeting with the attorneys talking about the group committing suicide.
Yeah, I still don't know the truth of that, but let's not go through that.
And said they committed, suicide. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you meeting with your attorneys?
Because if they already had the letters.
They didn't. The letters had not even... They would not have the letters. They had the letters on like March 26th-ish. They got the letters like what?
No, not 26.
The 20th.
The news broke.
News broke on the 26th.
26th, I think.
And like Riccoti and Ascoti had what, 1 day? They didn't even get to the house because they got discovered before they got to the house. So they had 1 day to get there. Or was it 2?
Well, we have
There was a
one of
lot
the
of
letters is dated
activity.
the 23rd.
Packets.
Yeah,
The
that's what I'm talking
23rd.
about. The letter
Right.
packets.
So if they got it on the, and Mark and Sarah both said in their sworn testimony that neither of them bothered to open it until Riccoti called them and said,
Right.
hey.
Right. Hadn't opened it yet. But I think they opened Ascoti's. Mark did while he was with
So it's like, why
Wayne
wouldn't you
Parker.
open yours? Because Ascoti said the same thing.
Because I think Sarah had it at the house.
Anyway.
I think. I'm not sure about that, though.
Riccoti scooted from wherever he lived to Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
To get to Mark and Sarah.
Right.
No time flat.
Yeah, he did.
Then hauled ass out to California to get stuff from the storage.
When they finally gave him the letters and showed him what they were supposed to do.
And then came back to Phoenix, and then another time went back to California to get the trucks from storage.
And it was too late.
And it was too late.
Right.
So they had enough time to make 2 trips from Phoenix, Arizona, out to LA.
Yeah.
Or Sandy, whatever.
That's right.
That's about 6 to 8 hours. I know, yeah. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, and then Riccoti immediately started copying the videotapes that he was sent by Doe.
Within this time, and then Mark and Sarah from Riccoti's manuscript were running scared. They were scared shitless.
Right.
They were not leaving.
I believe that.
With good reason, because the FBI and cops, everybody was crawling all over that place to find out what happened to these people.
Yeah.
And you got these people sitting in Phoenix, Arizona that have all this material that those people had. Like, they didn't want to, I can totally understand why they were freaking out.
Yeah.
So they expect us to believe that in that panic, where they were in all this panic, calling Riccoti at 3 a.m. saying, get our address off the website now.
That's right.
Freaking out.
Riccoti's manuscript talks about that.
I'm expected to believe the next morning they were sitting on the 26th, that they're sitting in an attorney's office and waiting for the news to break and acting like they didn't know it was going to happen. Because that's what they said to us. That they were sitting with their group of attorneys.
On the 26th?
That's when the news broke.
Right.
Right? So that's when they'd be sitting.
So that was 3 days after they got the letter. Well, but what if they were trying to find out what their legalities were?
They were scared shitless.
Yeah,
Why would they tell anybody that they were involved with that group?
To get attorneys, because
they would not have told anybody they were involved with that group. They were scared shitless. That's why they sent Riccoti and Ascoti. They didn't want anything to do with it. They were scared.
I know, but the next day after that,
they gave Riccoti everything. Here's our keys. Here's our letters. Here's our instructions. Get it away from us. We don't want anything to do with it.
Well,
so you're telling me a day later they were brave enough to go to attorneys and say, "Oh, we're in with that group, and we know they're going to kill themselves." And then
I'm not saying they said that.
They told us in the meeting. That's what they said to us. They said we told them we knew they were going to kill themselves. We just don't know.
Well, maybe they were hiding that part of it.
And then, sure enough, their secretary burst in and says, "Oh my God, turn the news on! That group, they did it. They killed." Blah, blah, blah.
So, I could imagine.
That's the Bardo methodology interview. If anybody wants to see that,
right? Kathy, it's true. What Kathy's saying is a lot of truth to. Is true. Are the facts that they of a lot of the events. If you can, hopefully you can hear. Okay. But it's still, to me, I know I'm maybe being stubborn about this, but to me it's still possible that they went to that and didn't tell everything about the subject to an attorney. And then when the news broke, then they realized that they had to talk about it directly at that point.
They were telling their attorneys they knew the group was going to kill themselves. And that's why they were meeting with him to figure out the legalities of it all. So why would you be doing that the day the news broke? Why would you be doing
To
that?
see if there's any liability with them with the address.
According to Rakoti's manuscript, they wouldn't even leave their house. They were so scared. So
That's right.
a day later, 2 days later, they've got their wits back about
Well,
this.
it can happen fast. That can happen fast.
To go to the attorney's office and not act like they know that the group is really gone, because that's what they would have had to have been doing. They were saying, we think they're going to kill themselves. We're not sure, but we're not sure when it's going to happen. We think so. And they're knowing damn well that the police are at the mansion because Rakoti called and told them that.
Yeah,
Rakoti
you might
and
be right about that.
Oskodi were driving up and saw all the stuff and left. They were there as it was unfolding.
Well, for whatever it's worth, the reason I'm being stubborn about this doesn't mean that I'm right about it.
It doesn't. Their story doesn't add up, and that's the easiest one to me to prove that they're lying. Why would you be telling me
I still
that
don't
you were
want to use.
connected
I
with a
won't.
group that killed themselves when you were so scared the FBI was going to come arrest you? Because they didn't know when the news first broke if somebody had gone in there and murdered them all. The first stories that came out,
Yeah, I understand.
it was almost being investigated as a homicide.
I understand.
So for them to be like, oh yeah,
We don't know what they did in that circumstance.
go read the Bardo methodology interview, everybody, and tell us if you think Mark's lying or not.
Joseph Coates, hello to you.
Sorry, my little
In the
rant.
home, Mr. Soy says, in the home videos, you all seem so happy as a group. We are. We were. I mean, in the group, it was sure. Uh, um, I mean, we all had common belief. We felt like we were part of the same beautiful machine of that tea and dough setup for us. You know, or it's not a machine in a industrial way, but the crew mindedness that comes when humans have this happen to them. Them meaning I'm a human. I'm not saying that I'm not in a human vehicle, but crew mindedness is very powerful. But it doesn't hold you very long if you don't have some meat on your bones, as I was going to say. If you don't have some grit, and people, can develop grit by experience, and they can even develop grit when it might be better that they don't. And that's what people say about the classroom, that they should have recognized the flags, when they showed up right from the beginning. Like some people would say that the idea that the next level has spacecrafts and that you could leave the planet with your body to go on a spacecraft, which is what they were talking about in 1975, as one of the ways that it might happen. That was the way that they were shooting for and believed was possible. And if you say that, people think you're totally controlled by that thought. That's not possible. And how do you know what's possible and what's not possible? Okay, good. Right. About a lot of things. But then there's a likelihood of possibility, and that's where it becomes choices. And degree is a possibility. And okay, well, this makes sense and this makes sense, but this doesn't. So uh, perhaps they got off track from some track. And yet they would say themselves that they made mistakes, But then he would also say sometimes that they had instruction to make those mistakes. Because the next level is basing their choices that they're helping their servants choose on the current circumstances. And that's where, um, uh, but, but, but see, if, if somebody that wants to be of service is given tasks to do, then that's not the stopping of asking for how to do that task. Because that's a process, that's also a process to learn how to do the task. Because uh, unless you're actually appealing to their minds for every step that somebody takes. So that would mean like, okay, well, if my task is to, I'm talking about the ideals. I'm not saying that I make all right decisions. I don't necessarily make hardly any right decisions. I don't know how many. I'm not the judge of that until after I do something and I realize that that wasn't the best decision to make. That might have wasted some money or something like that. But and that can be even down to my everyday work. Where I don't choose some of the right decisions to make. The most right being the most useful to me. The most right. You never know what you don't know. Right. It's true. Because sometimes you might make a choice that you think was a poor choice, but you ended up being in a part of town where all of a sudden you got gasoline and you met somebody at that gasoline station and something happened there that was like, wow, that's really interesting. That seems to be an answer to something I've been pondering, you know. And so then the task is, I mean, pondering with our whatever connection we all potentially have with the highest source that exists in the universe, and the known universe in terms of what little we can know about it from this vantage point on Earth. And but the next level makes sure that we do have vantage points and do have opportunities. I'm talking about all humans have potentially opportunities to look to their minds, even if we don't know what minds we are looking towards, because then it can even be through other humans that the next level know uh, um, is giving somebody opportunities to rule certain things out in life in what they're looking for, so that they can get to the greater and greater and greater directions to take. Because there are choices, there are directions to take that aren't going to get you to the top of the human kingdom mountain, even though there's a lot of paths to the top of the human kingdom mountain. But T and Doe said that they weren't from the human kingdom, and they demonstrated that. And you can really look at that in a lot of different ways. Uh, Directly, they don't have to have any symbolism involved, uh, and that's evidence of being off the mountain. If you want to look at the human kingdom as a mountain, which, in prophecy, you'll see mountain being used in that way, as well as rivers, rivers of mind, strains of mind, genetic strains of mind, thinking, patterns of thinking, and directions of thinking, and experiences, throughout history, so that some individuals know more than somebody else. But that doesn't mean they're some vein, they may know more than somebody else, but they may be really unknowing about another vein of development of that strain of mind. And so, but people get a big head when they get one vein in a direction. They can get a big head about it, and they can base a whole entire career on some kind of an invention of some sort, or uh, success in politics, or career, or successes are many times um, uh, both avenues of growth, but then can also be traps to those avenues of growth because uh, um, there is more to life than making money. Even though making money, you can actually provide employment to a lot of people that can have lives that are deeply affected by their ability to have employment. And so, that ends up like being the gratitude of thousands of people in the corporations. That gives that person a sense of accomplishment. And you can have that even in terms of the president and the presidents of companies and, you know, uh, rich people in Hollywood, whatever it is, in the stock market, the bankers, the elites of the planet, whatever it is, the 301 individuals or the seven families or you know, and there's all kinds of parallels with all this talk with things that are reality, you know, in my opinion, but that are also twisted to be bigger, putting too much attention into areas that just won't necessarily manifest. You get stuck in things. You can get stuck in a career. You can get stuck in a belief system. You can get stuck in a political system. You can get stuck in a religious condition, a spiritual condition. Um, but, you know, so they're all opportunities. They can all have their value for people at different stages in their development at different times, but they can also become traps if, when the older members come to take you off the mountain uh, um, and talk about needing to get rid of all of them, not about, not, have aces in the hole. And if you happen to be a vehicle in that classroom when it starts, because they are real. They actually have real positions on spacecrafts that they're filling. It's like an employer having opportunities that they and doesn't mean that they can't create new opportunities if they get more people growing in that direction than they anticipated, because they know there's going to be stages of growth. Everybody's not going to be ready to go all the way with the older members at the same time. In fact, it's impractical because it is a reality. Overcoming the human condition is the hardest thing you can do because being a human, you don't even know what there is to overcome. And it becomes a big controversy on whether that's overcoming or that's the best thing for somebody to do at the time. You know, we have to learn for ourselves what the best things are, and we pick and choose what they are. And so, if somebody wants to overcome uh, addiction to a substance, then that's the best thing they can be doing because they want to do it. If they don't, if they want to get into the substance, well, you can see, for that moment, maybe that is the best thing that they can do. But everything has its ramifications, and everything can become a negative depending on how, when, why, and where it's used and how often and to what degree, you know. But but life has a way, the biology of life has a way of helping us regulate things. You know, headaches, nausea, has those examine things that we do, that we put into our bodies. And there's a lot of them, a lot of different, fogginess of brain, not able to drive well under certain influences, and it can be harmful to other people to do certain jobs, and abiding by the laws because they make sense. You don't want to have somebody on a intricate cutting device that's inebriated or under too much influence of, and they're passing out. They can't keep their eyes open because they've had too much influence of a substance or a lack of sleep because of this or that. Emotional abuses of people and one another, and worrying about the future. That can deplete a person. They can get kind of addicted to that. You can have a problem with your body that you found enough solutions with that you don't want to do anything to change that homeostasis that you found, with whatever that disease is or that condition. I know I don't want to do anything. I have experience with what I'm talking about, and you can get into a place to where you just don't want to instigate anything new because you're afraid of how that new thing might limit your ability to have even that quality of life that you have. So we can get addicted to the quality of life, and also you can have a subconscious desire to not be healed from it, because then you'd have to go out and get a job to make money. If they found out, the service found out that that problem really didn't have anymore. And it's like people going out and having a lot of babies or foster children, thinking that they can use all the money, and then you find out that they're mistreating people, and and they don't want that to get out, but it might be motivation for them to not mistreat anybody, so that can become a good thing. Everything has got its potential choices. That when it's hurting somebody else or yourself, um, because we all have lessons, and the only way we can learn lessons is by having these human vehicles, and that's what T and Doe said, or Doe and crew said on the website, that their position was against the S word. And if you read the details of that, you see that there's uh, those that are in the human kingdom, that they're getting their lessons from that, from their opportunities. They need those vehicles because that's the only way they're going to grow their mind stronger, to be able to conquer those addictions and those problems. And you can have a problem that is you know well, forget about that. But I gotta always bring this up because um, turning away from seeking the highest mind that we could seek, and if that becomes T and Doe in your mind, turning away from them, uh, ultimately just means that you're not gonna. I don't know what you're not gonna have, because the next level is the judge of each person. And so for me to try to say what somebody is not going to get is stupid. I don't have that capacity. Just like Joe, I don't have the capacity, and you'll hear Doe talking about that. He doesn't have the capacity to judge people. Even in this tape 447, he talks about that people that are going to church for Christmas, um, that might be the best they can do. The next level are the deciders of that. And circumstances actually of what's happening, because the next level is working in all departments in the human kingdom. They have uh, they have members that know the people that are asking for help on their computer systems. They can get those radio signals. They keep that band available so that humans can't interfere with it and the space aliens can't interfere with it. So, I suggest trying it, but being suspicious of what you hear back in a sense, asking the highest source, because there are individuals that will seek to be that higher source. But the next level, I believe, has ways of helping those that they see are genuinely asking, so that the lower forces can't get them turned away, at least for a period of time, so that those individuals can build their strength enough to keep those influences at bay themselves. So the next level helps with everything. When somebody, that's why it says that expression of all things work together for good for those that love the correct Lord, the highest Lord, not the lords of the human kingdom in the House of Lords in the British government, or the lords that use that same equivalent word, or a father, like in the Catholics, they still talk of their priests as fathers, even though Jesus said, "Don't call any man your father," and he used the word pater, at least in the Greek, and it was Abba in the Hebrew, and yet they do that because they think that they're trying to represent. That's how they use it as an excuse. But they don't realize that they're actually influencing humans that uh, um, have a certain amount of belief in that direction to think of them as an authority on things, an authority on development, spiritual development. They think that the priests and the rabbis and the imams and uh, the gurus, the teachers, there's a lot of people that look up to those people, and it doesn't mean that that's a negative. It's not necessarily a negative, but it's not as accurate as going to the direct information that was provided by, if that information still exists. And so you can count on, like Tiendo said in the beginning in 75, that the materials that were the quotes of Jesus in the four Gospels were kept accurate enough by members of the next level on crews that it was a difficult task because they're not here listening to our voices and listening to our debates, human debates about those materials and what to do with those materials and what not to do with those materials. And so if somebody's trying to hide that material, they don't necessarily know about it unless they learn about it from those that do want to serve, and whatever other ways they have of monitoring what people are doing with their information, which can be a lot of different kinds of people, because their information was in the hands of San Diego County for over a year. And I don't have any doubt the next level knew that information was with that county. And so I think did help Mark and Sarah get it. But that didn't mean that that was the only way that that material could become public to a certain degree. But that was a practical way of having some of the material available and some of the material not yet available. But uh, but then that gets, you know, but then the next level allowed that to be the case until 2021 when Wanodi uh, gave us a slew of additional tapes that we hadn't had for over 10 years. And so to me, that was because the next level and Wanodi wanted to serve more. Because service isn't just one time. It's not about like saying, T and O, I want to be of service one time. I mean, if you really mean it, they'll know it. They can see, and they'll help you. They'll help definitely. And and then uh, um, and then you'll come up on circumstances to where it might be difficult because certain parts of it can be very bizarre to think about. And seem like the opposing forces actually have some good points when you start running up against all those things. And so that becomes a challenge. And then the next level can, if you ask again, the next level can help you through that challenge. If you don't ask again, the next level still is going to probably help you with that challenge because they don't give up easily on those that are seeking their direction. It's more we give up on them. I mean, that's what it really is. The next level doesn't give up on those that are seeking growth, even without knowing anything about TNO. I'm talking about people that are separating from the world in their own ways. In other words, not wanting to be a part of this gun culture, not believing in going and bombing over here because they might bomb us, or because we want that, people want that geography, that geographical advantage, be able to ship oil or even steel oil. When we're not going along with that in our belief system, then we're separating from that. And a lot of people have been separating that their entire lives. But doesn't mean that they're going to change it. And you can fight against it, but I don't recommend it because it's not our fight. Just because what? I was born in a certain country, all of a sudden now everything they do is or don't do is on my conscience. That's like saying it should be on the conscience of all people that were any kind of conflicts, tribal conflicts, racial conflicts, ethnic conflicts, gender conflicts, um, uh, spiritual conflicts of belief systems. That's a big one. It's a huge one. You know, that end up thinking that they're killing the other one for God, for their God. Well, they are for their God, but their God is probably a space alien soul, if they're doing that at all. And that space alien soul might not even want them to do that, but think that that's the only way they're going to get their agenda accomplished, and that it's the karma of the people uh, that are not abiding by the things that they want to happen in this world. I don't know how many of them are thinking that way. But they've got different ways of thinking about it, justifying things to themselves. And Doe talked about that was going to happen to those that dropped out. They were going to have to justify it somehow in order to survive. And you can see the evidence of those that dropped out and how different things and states of mind and consciousness and have been justified. I justify things, and it's not that it's wrong to justify those things, because many times those are things that I need to experience, so that I'm doing it not because I think it's required of me, but because I recognize the value of it. It's good for me to do it. And the lower forces want to use that against us too. And that's what the clause that all or nothing comes in. Okay, well, on that score, let me address something about that. Because that part in the book of Revelations where it says in the letters, in the beginning, the letters to the different groups of believers, which is talking to a group of minds, of souls, that the next level was bringing back for this time period now. So you can just think of that as 7 groups of souls, okay, uh, having their roots or their vehicles and even their development of their souls in different areas of the world. Uh, with, even in prime focuses in the Middle East, but that didn't mean that it didn't apply to all over the world when that information was spread all over the world, whatever it was. And, at this point, all the information from all the religions, I think, have been pretty much spread throughout the world. Anybody can, pick up the internet and type in what somebody believes in this group or that group and see the offshoot groups, and they can learn all about it. So it's been thoroughly spread throughout the world. But at that time period when that was to happen, which we're experiencing now, we're still in, um, there are some that are hot for the next level and some that are cold to the next level. Um, and and I heard Doe actually mention this in tape 447 in a kind of a very subtle way the way I heard it anyway. I mean, it alerted me to this idea that there was value. The next level would save what was of value to them, both from the negative forces and from the higher forces. And the way they talked about that was that they still want everybody to gravitate to the higher sources, the next level, the evolutionary kingdom level above human members. They're older members, because that's who people would be forming their relationship with, which would be Do right now for those that believe in that T and Do represent that kingdom. Anyway, um, so so those that go against that, and going against that is is it's also a process, and there are many opportunities to not go against it. But the more opportunities that are taken to go against it automatically fills our heads with opportunities that won't take us any further from where we are in that direction. So, so because it's from the opportunities, the questions, the doubts, the challenges, with the ideas and everything that stimulate the person to say, "Whoa, I I don't know, this is crazy. Some of this, or this doesn't make as much sense to me as that does. Even though I have problems with this and that about that, it's still the most sensible information that I've heard." it answers the most questions that I've heard. I mean, that's the way I feel about it, and T and Do, that's the way they felt about it. And they felt like at the time, and they talk about this in the tapes, you can hear it. Well, they talk about that if somebody came along and was starting to talk about something and they liked what they were hearing, they were learning something new from that person, then they stayed with that person to hear what else they had to say. I hear things from people because Kathy's doing a lot of exploring. And so I hear some of the things that are being talked about, and I hear things in it that, yeah, that makes sense to me. I understand that. I vibe with that. And then I hear something else they say, and I think, but that to me doesn't make any sense to what I believe. And but that doesn't mean that I won't continue to hear what else that person has to say. But I'm just not going to probably go after it. But if it happens that I hear about it, someone brings it up in the chat, or Kathy brings something up, or I hear something on the news, or on YouTube, through the different discoveries that I'm doing, or the the influencers that I'm following. If I hear something that like that's interesting, then I go after it. I don't like run away from it. Gets to a certain point to where certain things I'm not going to go after anymore. I don't want to see any more flat Earth theories. I don't want to see any more NASA doesn't exist theories. Uh, even with the manipulations that NASA does, and they even have the department that goes over the documents and airbrushes them, and all the things that they do to to what they say ready depictions for the public. That they have all kinds of censorship going on. They don't want people to see certain things, like that picture that's on the screen right now of 7 blue lights all going in the same direction that look like their own independent little comets. Well, that was Comet Atlas, the first Atlas that was discovered by the Atlas telescope crew um, some years ago, not that long ago. That picture of, and it's when Atlas split into 7 parts or more. Maybe it was more parts than that, or 4 or 5 parts. I don't remember exactly how many there were. I should find that picture and stop that slideshow in that spot when I'm talking about it. But um, because the next level has been giving us all kinds of opportunities to see more of them in the heavens. That's what Jesus said was going to happen. He said you would see signs in the sun and the moon and the stars. And we see all kinds of things happening, depicted as happening on the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets. To us, if I look up in the sky, Mars looks like a star to me. Unless somebody could tell me, okay, that's planet Mars because see that red glow? I wouldn't have known that if somebody didn't tell me that was the case. So are they truthful? Is it really Mars? Are there really planets? Well, yeah, I think so. Why do I think so? Because the next level gives us a certain amount of um, sense of what makes sense. And can we be fooled? Yes, we can be fooled. So it's always good to keep an eye out for the ways that we can be fooled. But some things just aren't worth the time. And to me, some things are put out there or emphasized or given more bandwidth by the search engines when they throw a monkey wrench into the what was once commonly thought of a certain way, like with the moon landings and the flat Earth ideas. You know, and it's because it's interesting. It's of interest to keep people not knowing what's real and what's not real. At the same time, the governments are playing off of that, not consciously necessarily, but those space alien souls, they know about some of this. They know about a lot of this, ways of manipulating people. manipulating humans, manipulating the leaders of countries to get what they want. What do they want? Well, my understanding is they want to steal souls from the next level if they can, if those souls allow themselves to be stolen, because it won't be an easy process. But what else do they want? They want to get off this planet because they have rumor about them that there's a recycling. There is a recycling that will take place on this planet, and that they might even lose their lives. And Tiendo felt like there would be a new crop of Luciferians, and that what that means is new souls that are equivalent to where the Luciferians grew to become. In order to provide the cold side of the equation. And so they can use both the hot and the cold, but the lukewarm, talks about in that Revelation prophecy, they have no use for. It becomes spittle to the next level. That's why they depicted it as spew you out of my mouth. It's of no value to anybody if somebody doesn't uh, demonstrate to the gardeners that they're of value. Now, you can't be, I don't think you can be programmed to want to be of value to the gardener. You either recognize, you can try to be, like Tiendo would say about some people that, they wanted to want to believe. They wanted to want to. And doesn't mean that's a bad condition to be in. But if somebody wants to want to, then they're gonna have to be the ones to block out that direction when it comes to their mind that might be a direction to take. And the next level uses that because uh, there's going to be a whole bunch of lessons that an individual is going to have to go through in order to grow their mind strong enough to where they could actually be viable as a member of the next level in a next level grown denser physical vehicle than the denseness of a soul body, or the denseness of the content of the soul body of the mind that are talked about by Tiendo as having a plasma kind of physicality to them. Not a gas, but a plasma physicality. And they say the sun is made out of plasma. Well, I guess plasma has a lot of different stratas to it. But who knows? Maybe the sun is where I wondered about this years ago. If all the souls that were recycled were actually sent to the sun, and they all amount to a certain amount of energy, and over time, uh, there's so many. That's probably a fantasy idea, but then you can wonder whether because I don't think the next level is maybe that could even be what people expect when they desire to be when they define their source as being undefined relative to the way that the human kingdom has been given directions to take through the leadership of the ones that ended up becoming religions. Okay, and that can be people that were even in those religious ways of thinking that became known as the prophets or the people that were uh, doing the best things for humanity, and really sacrificing what they wanted to help somebody else, which in degrees, um, the people that have empathy for people and all living things, like Saint Francis of Assisi, they said that he was like uh, he was in love with the animals, I guess, and I'm not sure that's the way to say it, but I don't think he used any animal products that required killing of the animals. And we got to watch that show, Kathy. Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting to the end of this. Yeah. Vivian says there's plenty of documentation that leaving your vehicle was not required to get to the next level until the 90s. Whoever says that is not brainwashed. Huh. Yeah, but it wasn't even required in the 90s. Um, because when you can hear that in actual tape, in one tape in particular that we do have available to us, you can hear Doe saying to the students that were there, and I was not in the group at the time, that you're not doing something wrong by not staying in the classroom, knowing that they were about to leave by their own hands. Because I knew that before I left. That was the plan. But that plan was in effect for over 2.5 years. Um, and, uh, and you weren't right or wrong by not wanting to take that action. Because Doe knew that you might need to experience different things in the classroom that weren't happening in the classroom. You weren't getting certain growth in the classroom. Now, that didn't mean that, and that happened all throughout the whole classroom, that there were individuals that weren't getting their maximum growth, even in this tape 447 that I've been talking about. Uh, you'll see that, like, for instance, Tsunodi Doe felt like needed to be in a different location than the current classroom. But actually, she wasn't out of the classroom, though, because the classroom was anybody that was still wanting to be in touch with Doe, NT. So the way that they left the classroom was making that statement a fact, like saying to Doe, you know, can we stay in touch? And Tsunodi didn't actually, she got an assignment from Doe to leave the classroom because there were some others that had been outside the classroom. And that was like a true kind of halfway situation in a sense. But so that they could experience uh, things that would help them recognize why they were having trouble keeping certain influences out of their minds while they were in the classroom. Riccoti had that problem, and I had that problem too. But Riccoti had the problem I know about. I can talk about intelligently that um, that you'll hear in the tapes, uh, that he would get the heebie-jeebies about not being able to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. Like the joke was in the classroom that Cody's vehicle or whatever wanted to go out and get a pizza once in a while. And I'm not saying that was a reality, that that was the biggest thing, but it's just being able to choose for yourself what you want at any given moment is a big influence. I mean, it's a serious influence. Let me put it that way. And I actually have experience with that, where I didn't have experience with that when I was in the classroom. Because when I left the classroom, I found myself enjoying going to the supermarket and choosing between a grapefruit and an orange. That was pleasurable. I was experiencing pleasure in the grocery store. So that's how my experience taught me that that was true, what Tia and I were saying. Uh, about, well, that I needed something else. That I'm not saying they didn't address that at the time. That's just one of the symptoms of that I needed something that the class I wasn't getting from the classroom. And if you read my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com, in Sawyer's story, you can see the details around my departure that also explain things that I was not learning, I was not addressing, I was not seeing as a stumbling block, but was. Anyway, so I'm going to move on from that. I'll go to the chat for a little bit. I'll have to check that tape out, says Vivian. Yeah, tape 447. You know, as you know, listening very carefully uh, and going back, you know, to listen to things over and again. If you if you get any, I don't need to tell you. I'm just saying for the sake of anybody else that, I was sitting in the audience for these tapes, and yet I didn't have hardly a recognition of a lot of these things that were said that I'm talking about now. Because I didn't have experience with those things to know that Doe was talking about things that were true about the overcoming process and the way human nature is and the process of uh, uh, creating, stimulating the metamorphosis of mind over vehicles so that even the vehicle itself wants to do it. Because that's what's happening is the mind of the vehicle is deciding to take a back seat to what the next level soul uh, wants to use that vehicle to accomplish. Because even the mind of the vehicle recognizes that that's the greatest direction they can take. And for somebody that it doesn't become the greatest connection that they can take, well, maybe they need to have some other experiences first. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's, a different kind of classroom for them. It's not for me to say. And that can even be a positive. Because let's say, like right now, let's say there's a bunch of people that are learning certain kinds of lessons that T and Doe's classroom isn't going to address with them. So that they can be in a better, this is the theory of it, is so that they can potentially, by looking at those things and participating in them, learn for themselves that maybe that's not going to satisfy what I ultimately want. at life. Because that's the best we can do, even though a member of the next level doesn't ever think they're doing the best. Except for maybe they, for a period of time, that might translate that way in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like you can be proud that you conquered an addiction. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's when you're a little too pleased with yourself that you can have a problem. Because that means that you're not reaching for how you can be better. Because the older members are always going to be better. But they're not weighing, they don't use that on us. They don't use that against us. They don't think that, oh, I'm better than you, so I'm in the next level. That doesn't cross their minds. If it did, then they wouldn't they wouldn't have overcome that yet, and they still might need to come back to the human kingdom to learn that lesson. Because Doe said that some of those even that left with them, uh, he felt like there would be some that would come back to the human kingdom. But that didn't mean that they were taking the wrong step to leave at the time that they left. I don't think so at all. And that doesn't mean that people that leave by their own hand are condemned like the way that the Catholics tended to talk about it. As I was growing up, I thought that was the thing. That was the biggest sin. But the Catholics are so far off track, it's hard to imagine. But that doesn't mean that each person that considers themselves a Catholic is off track. They may be doing the best they can. Even the priests may be doing the best they can. It's, it's proper to have that attitude because it's more accurate, not because I've been told to have that attitude. It's just more accurate because we don't know how to second guess the older members of the next level in terms of judging anybody else. And we don't know when they could change and how much they could change, how fast. And yet they could still be in that position on the pulpit, okay, and have that job, and yet their minds changed in all kinds of ways to where they think, well, Lord, is this the best way I can serve? And they still feel like serving in that direction. And the next level, they can identify those that are thirsty for the truth and for service. Because the truth alone is fine, it's beautiful, it's true. I mean, even when the facts are terrible, like with the way that humans act, especially the ones in great positions of power, the way they act is terrible. It's ugly. It's evil. It's disgusting. It's beneath animal because they should know better. They could know better. I say should, but they could know better. And still, they may be doing the best they can. I don't know. I know it's probably a stupid way of thinking. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe we do need to decide who's actually gone down that road that can't return. But see, I can't because in the Black Hawk tapes, I know T, and T said that the chief even loves Lucifer, and he also said in the same tape, or there were three tapes associated with that meeting in Black Hawk, Colorado, and said that the Luciferian space alien, they didn't use those words altogether. But you knew that that's what they were talking about. But the fallen angel souls, the ones who went against the next level through the mythologies that we have, whoever they were, however they were depicted in mythologies. But they were given many opportunities to recover from that, going against the next level. That's what it became. It became going against the initial instructions, just like Adam did, and then continuing to get lessons and going against um, getting back to communicating with their older members what their older members would have them do. If they stop asking their older members what they would have them do in service, and then listening for what that answer might be instead of coming up with their own answer, um, then they just stop asking. And if you stop asking, then guess what? You don't get anything new. Or if you get it, you get it in another direction that's harder to recognize as new. New in the direction that you want to take. Because your influences with you are looking at that in a way that I don't want to take that direction anymore. And so subconsciously gets pushed down and down and down and down to where that thought doesn't even come that that's a wrong decision to send a bomber over there to bomb those people. I'm just that's an extreme example. But the same thing happens with a lot of things to where that little voice isn't there anymore. Or if it's so small that there's hardly a chance in hell that they're going to hear it. And so, what does the next level do when a number of the individuals got to that condition? Well, eventually they say, well, we're going to have to recycle that soul because that is the ramifications. Becoming nothing or becoming energy being changed into some different direction, like to power the sun. We're gonna put them all up there and let that amount of power that they accumulated, um, that they still retained after going off track, even some of, let that provide sustenance for the whole planet, if that's the way. I'm not saying that Doe gave us any indication that that was what was happening with the sun, so uh, take that with a grain of salt at best. He wouldn't wear sandals. Let's see, they say Francis made the first nativity, I think. He wouldn't wear sandals because they were made out of leather, is that why? I remember something about that. And that's the individual that T felt like was her guide before she met Doe. She would call upon him or that individual, that guide, I don't know if she referred to it as a him or not, that guide, that mind, as she felt like was present, to help her hit the vein when she was taking blood from a patient, so that she wouldn't have to, try more than once. That was one example of, and she called that person Brother Francis. And they even had a little bit of a difficulty with that between T and Doe, and I'll leave it on this after this statement, after this recollection of the way they thought about Brother Francis, is that sometimes for that first awakening period of time that can be thought of as anywhere from 1972 to 1975 or 6, being, the awakening period when they were going public in different ways, different degrees. That really only started in around April of 1975 with the public part, with public meetings. Anyway, but even though they were private meetings technically in April of '75, but what they would say about Brother Francis, like T would bring it when they would have a challenge of a certain way of thinking, an idea or different ideas about how to do something. I don't know what the exact circumstances were, but T would bring up that Brother Francis felt differently about that, felt to do this or that. And Doe got to a point to where I think it was in Gold Beach, and he said, the way that Doe described it was like, can we enough with Brother Francis, because I feel like you're overpowering me, overriding me with this entity that I don't know where they are or who they are, you know, and and my understanding is that T agreed to that. Maybe Doe had to get to that point, ask that of T, um, because for whatever reason, I don't know if T considered that a mistake, bringing up Brother Francis a number of times, or a mistake that she felt like Brother Francis was giving her to make. Because in that context, Brother Francis was her older member. And actually, the same older member that Doe recognized, he was also communicating with when they would try to find answers to problems, or they would have ideas about new steps, which the Black Hawk tapes also shows. That's tape 25, 6, and 7, that to me are, like with all the tapes, but some of them stand out in ways that are really informative about a lot of things about the way they operated. Like the way they said that in tape 25, 26, and 27, that that we don't understand. We're hoping that we understand 50% of what we were given with this new information. And that if you understand 50% of that, we think you're doing good. And I recognized at the time that didn't mean anything to me. I don't think. I mean, except I logged it in my head that they weren't pretending to have it all, because it was more than they could handle and more than they knew what to do with in order to communicate that to us, because these concepts are not easy to actually recognize. These ideas are not easy to recognize because they're against the human strain. But they're not at the same time, because the human strain has the capacity to even recognize the reality of creators of this planet and the life forms on it. It's even in the genetic code of every cell, is my understanding. I'm not saying that from experience. I'm saying that because it makes sense to me, and I know that it came from T and Doe, and they never updated as being a mistake or a less or a more thorough understanding of. But that's what the classroom was constant T and Doe seeking a more thorough understanding about what they were given, what they perceived, what they checked out, to balance it against the things that didn't match what they knew were behaviors and ways of members of the next level. Like at first, T and Doe thought, uh, more or less, that all the things that were being talked about as UFOs were members of the next level. But then when they saw them, people reporting that they had sex on board the spacecrafts, and they knew that the human kingdom was where humans would have those kind of relations, because the next level doesn't have that. They don't need to propagate. It's not even, it doesn't even work, I don't think, for them to have humans on board their spacecrafts propagating new little humans, because those humans weren't going to grow uh, to know the difference between what the next level is about and the human kingdom is about. If they're kept on the spacecraft for a certain amount of time, unless there's an individual use for that to happen, which I don't know, I can't really imagine it, because the lab for growing human vehicles and helping those human vehicles grow towards the light, the true, definite, the truest form of going to the light, unless they had human experiences to learn what's not true. That's a lot of times what Doe said was how somebody comes to find what is true is when they come to recognize what's not true. Like, for instance, when I was told when I was 18 years old, 17 and 18, that the United States was fighting in Vietnam for the falling domino theory, that China would end up taking over all those countries. And and when I heard that, I thought, I don't know, that doesn't make sense to me. But I wasn't a political activist at the time, uh, much, tiny little bit, because I was anti-war. So definitely I was going towards Ray McGovern for the election of between Nixon and McGovern. I voted for McGovern, who was the anti-war candidate. But so it was in my genes that I wasn't gonna be in favor of anybody that was propagating wars. Um, and so that's the way it is with uh, a lot of people in the human kingdom. They can't abide by that. They can't live by that. They can't justify what humans are doing, and that's happening big time now. Those are all test criteria. I mean, it's not tests like the way that humans give tests. That you get the wrong answer and then you fail the test and then you don't get the grade. The next level, uh, they are kind, they are fair, they are to the hilt that way. We could fail a test. How many times? Jesus said, how many times do you forgive your fellow student of their sins? They're missing the mark on something. They're not making the best decision that they could have made because they continue to not recognize that. Like Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do and what they're doing to him. He was recognizing that if they knew better, they would not make those choices. But that didn't mean that a person continuing to go down that road of making poor choices was going to grow out of making those choices. Or weren't going to justify their choices by this way, or that way, or that way. That has the appearance of being good. Because it's maybe good for some overview when it's not good for the current view. And you see that with the war in Gaza and Venezuela and Haiti and Chile and Argentina and Sudan and Somalia and Myanmar and Thailand and who knows, Ukraine, of course, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So the lessons get harder. They don't seem like lessons anymore. The people that even say that they believe in Jesus are thinking that in this circumstance, this needs to happen this way for goodness to prevail. And sometimes, those things can be helpful. Yeah, but I'm going to close. I'm going to close right now. Well, there is one more thing, so I'll try to be quieter. Okay, baby. So Warrior of Truth says, 7196 says, it kind of seems Doe wanted to ditch other forms of spirituality as they were coming into their own. Um, uh, hmm, I don't know. I don't know how to bring what he might say to that. Um, I mean, they kind of ditched them all uh, in 1973. So I don't know that it was be related to when those different forms of spirituality were coming into their own. Because I'm not sure, when did Christianity as a spiritual development come into its own? It seems like it was downhill after Jesus left, even though a certain amount of it was uphill. So it was both uphill and downhill. It was uphill for those that were trying to do their best in serving the older member that they recognized as being Jesus. But then it was downhill when that was being um, distorted and diluted uh, through those that never had experience with the older member. Because if they were a soul that was returned and was ready to be in the classroom with the older member, then they would have been somebody that the next level would have helped be in that area at the time that the older member was coming public. So now there could have been a soul that was returning from like a future time. I'm talking about like Paul. He could have been a soul that had got his beginning during the Moses encampment, and so he was glued to that. Um, but uh, but something was his vehicle was a little more difficult for a returning soul from that encampment to take over during the time that Jesus was circulating and giving talks and gathering some of those that did recognize his mind. So it didn't mean he was lost. It just meant that in that example, that his classroom was beginning after they left. I mean, that's one way to look at it. And and so he wasn't like uh, bad. He was just I mean, because there were things that he said that were very good, like the way that he said that um, um, that it would be better to be celibate, the way he was celibate, than being promiscuous. So that's kind of going with the law of that Moses gave, that somebody should have one partner, one commitment to one individual. That was what they were reaching for at that time in terms of their propagation of new vehicles. Be with one person and stick to them. And if they died, then they, Moses, Jesus said that Moses made a concession by saying that you could divorce somebody for promiscuity, I think. Um, but that's not the way it was in the beginning. The Lord wanted there to be just that commitment because they were teaching the commitment. So if you could have a commitment to another human, then you could grow to recognize the kind of commitment that you would grow to develop, you could grow to develop with the older member when the time is for that to develop more. And whenever the older member is physically among us, that's the time for those individuals that are with them to develop that commitment. And then everybody that develops that commitment to that same older member after he left is still developing their commitment to that older member. It doesn't go away because he's not here physically, but it becomes a different type of experience. And it can, um, the next level, they don't hold people back. So people grow as fast and as true as they want to grow. And it means taking to heart uh, everything they gave us for themselves, and teaching that same process is passing on their information that we learn is all trustworthy to pass on. We don't have to hide anything, but at the same time, we're not going to try to put in front of people uh, more than they're asking for. Now, in this circumstance of this channel, I'm not the older member, so I'm not, and I'm potentially talking to people from all different points of view and degrees of, but it works actually. Tiando's teachings work for everybody. I can be specific about it, but it might be better if you hear it from Do. And so I encourage you to listen to all the 12 Beyond Human, there's 12 sessions of the Beyond Human tapes, and the 3 tapes that Do made that are considered part of the exit tapes, Planet About to be Recycled, uh, Last Chance to Advance Beyond Human, um, and Do's Final Exit, those 3 tapes. And of course, uh, um, I can't imagine that Do wouldn't enjoy uh, seeing individuals listen to all the T and Do tapes of tea talking and even all the tapes. But you don't want to think. I mean, you don't want to. It doesn't matter really. 'Cause I'm not the judge of what you want to do and what don't want to do. But if you hear that influence, it's an influence that would have you think that you can't share any of this information with anybody else unless you know you've heard it all, something like that. Because that wouldn't be true. Because in the beginning, when they gave us the task of sharing their information. We had one sheet of paper that talked about. It was called Statement One. It's in the Heaven's Gate book, and that's what we were talking to people for about 9.5 months or 9 months. I don't know if it was a half. But all right, folks. You're welcome, Warrior of Truth. He says, I was referring to him wanting tea not to talk about St. Francis. Oh, I don't think it was related to that. But I mean, I'm not sure if I can tell you exactly what tape that was in. Um, but I think it's in the 290s. I don't know. It's not even in the descriptions. Um, because it wasn't in 447. He wasn't actually addressing Saint T's use of Saint Francis. But I'll give it a look to see if I can find it. Warrior of Truth. Luke says, "Wonderful stream. Thank you. Have a good night." Well, good night to you, Luke HG 326. Thank you, and good night to everybody. I don't know, some of you all here, Old School Dave and Krell and uh, Joseph and others that Mr. Soy. Good night.